Welcome to the next episode of Hustle and Air. We're your hosts, Nena and
Mimi.
according to the Canadian Mental Health Association, May 4th to May 10th is Mental Health Week. Remember to use the hashtags Together Apart and Get Real. The world has been forced to slow down. Can you imagine? As COVID 19 events continue to unfold, coping mechanisms is top of mind for everyone. And it got us thinking, is this a blessing or is it having the opposite effect on some people?
The CMHA.ca shares some facts about mental health. In any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. Approximately 8% of adults will experience major depression at some time in their lives. In Nova Scotia, Canada, in April 18th to 19th, a man committed the largest mass shooting, killing 22 people in Nova Scotia. He went on a bit of a rampage, and some we don't know what caused this episode. He may have had a mental health issue. He had some kind of issue that we don't know about. Some people may have identified it in him, maybe domestic related issue. We're not sure. But the pandemic, being quarantined, may have brought out some additional feelings in him that led him to kill 22 people. People came out after and said, I did notice something unusual about him, or I did notice a change in his behavior. And as we're talking about mental health, it's important for us to remember that it's okay for us to share how we're feeling.
Absolutely.
And it's also important for us to check in on the people in our lives,
Yeah,
on our neighbors, on
very
our friends, on our colleagues. And if something looks off, ask, get real with them,
mm-hmm.
talk about it. Because sometimes it's in those moments where we brush something off and we find out that this individual was dealing with something heavy. They had thoughts possibly to harm themselves. And in articles
Yes.
or others, exactly. And sometimes we've read stories about people who had thoughts to harm themselves, and they said it was a stranger walking by that smiled at me, or I received a phone call that showed me somebody cared.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to check in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Nena, I've got time with you right now. I'd like to check in with you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing during this time?
You know what? At the beginning of the quarantine when this all kind of started back in March, I have to say, as somebody who typically worked a little bit from home and also in the office, I didn't feel much of a difference. I felt like, to me, it felt like a blessing because I was getting the needed and necessary break, the opportunity to kind of slow down, collect my thoughts, be present in the life that I'm living and not give myself so much to my company. So I really, really enjoyed it at first and really thought that this would be, short lived. Of course, as we know now, we're almost 10 weeks in. And I have to say, some things have been challenging. Some things have been definitely hard to adapt into my day to day life. I've definitely made sure that I'm more than ever, I'm programming myself to give myself breaks throughout the day and make sure I'm taking necessary timeouts to make sure I'm, getting on some sort of a regimen, getting on some sort of a exercise pattern that is going to keep not only my mind going, but also my body in where typically I would have been rushing off to work, or I would have been outdoors, I would have been walking around, I would have gotten some sort of outdoor activities in. So I think that's probably been like the major challenge. Outside of that, because I'm just mentally strong and, I have the will of my sign, the Capricorn goat. It's really starting to feel like regular life now. It's not feeling so much like quarantined or isolated. I think when we start to use those words, although they needed to give us some guidelines from, a governmental perspective and just from a social perspective on what exactly this was, using those words was needed. But I'm not quarantined. I'm not isolated. I'm very much connected to the outside world. I'm very much connected to my family. When you start to have these certain mindsets, that's sometimes where you get into these issues mentally where you feel like you have to react and do things or say things that you might not typically do. So honestly, I'm having a great time. I think this is the greatest gift that God has given us through all the craziness that's happening. Being able to just really slow down and enjoy life and enjoy the people around you has been a great addition for me. I mean, would I love to be able to maybe travel the world? I mean, as a avid traveler, I'm boggled down in one city, and I think that's been the only challenge. But outside of that, no, I'm loving this. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time because summer's on the horizon, and soon I'll be able to take my adventures and sit on my patio, have a nice drink, pull some of my indoor activities outdoors for the day. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. What's going on with you? What's happening on your side? How are you doing? How are you coping?
I'm the opposite of you, apparently. I feel locked up.
Locked up, they won't let me out. Girl, why are you feeling locked up? Tell us about it.
I miss the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that has made this experience more challenging for me is because that sense of loss of control
Right,
or loss of the ability to do the things I want to do.
right.
So maybe it's similar to being on a diet. The moment I tell myself I can't eat this food, that's all that I want to eat.
Mm.
So I'm not even an outdoorsy person, but the moment that you tell me that being outdoors is not permitted anymore, that's all I want to do. I just want to go hiking. I want to go to the beach. I want to be outside. I want to be with my friends. I really need human contact. So that has been challenging
Right.
for me. But I agree with what you have said that this time to slow down
Yeah.
and really take the time to see what's important has been incredible. There are so many things that I took for granted that I now value so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And friends, family, being outside, being free will, being able to move around on our own freedom
Mm-hmm.
is something that I really did take for granted without really realizing it. But outside of losing that freedom, this time has been great for self reflection, exercise. I've got time to drink more water. I've got time to really work on the things and the relationships that matter to me. One thing I didn't expect was for this time to go as long as it has.
I think we can all account to that. We didn't think it was going to be 3 months.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
no, but it's weird because at the same time, the time seems to have gone by fairly quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, just the other day it was March and this whole thing started and it's almost June now and it doesn't feel like it's
Almost.
been that long.
It really doesn't. So, has quarantine been what you expected?
Well, I mean, not quite in some ways, but I think I thought quarantine was going to be a lot more looser as far as, going outside and still mingling with people and still having those human interactions and it not being so stringent on staying home. I didn't think that the entire city honestly was going to be at a standstill. I think in all my years, I've never seen something of the sort where you go outside and there's literally nobody out there. It is a desert. And then, just some of the the things that we're now having to think of when we're going out. So, the wearing of the masks and the lineups at grocery stores, and, things are a little bit more cheaper. They're harder to get because of the all of the things that are playing a factor into this virus. So some of those things I didn't expect. I didn't think I'd ever see. I've always thought of that as things that happen in third world countries, very removed from the life that we're living. Although, my connection to quote unquote what people call third world countries is very real. It's just always been real there. It's never been something I've had to ever feel here. So going through that has been definitely a game changer for me. There's so much I wanna. There's so many things going through my head as far as possibility for the country that we live in, and for the community that we come from, and just elevating ourselves and being ready for something like this again in the future, because it will happen again. If not with this virus, it'll be something else, right? So
Absolutely.
just getting to a point where we understand that our dollar, our input is valuable and needs to be valued. So those are some of the things that I've been, just going through in my head. And as far as
Mm-hmm.
the unexpected, and just thinking about from like a work perspective, honestly, we made a very, very seamless transition when we moved over to working virtually. Uh,
I mean, you were already working from home. You were already living the good life.
I was kind of,
Couple days a
I had
week.
one foot in already, right? I had one foot in for sure. But the entire company literally overnight went from all of us being in our offices to completely virtual, and we're 99.9% or 99.5% virtual right now. But no, it was a very smooth transition. We literally went from, you know, going in on Thursday to everybody's now at home on Friday. And honestly, this really opened people's eyes to how easy it is and more productive almost to work from home. Now, I'm not saying every day, I'm not saying 5 days a week, I'm not saying all year, but a significant portion of your year can be done completely virtually, right up to the CEO of the company, and still produce great work and still produce great camaraderie between you and your coworkers. I think I talk to my coworkers a lot more now, my colleagues a lot more now, because we're at home. We're trying to stay connected and make sure, we're not dropping the ball on anything, and the lines of communication is always open. So I really appreciate that. I think going forward, I'm that's going to be something I really look for in other companies. Hey, is this an option? Because life happens. And if anything has really taught us something about this time, is it's important to enjoy your life.
I
Oh,
agree with you. Our company moved remotely very early on and fairly quickly. The day we were supposed to do our tests, run to see how we would function as an organization, basically became the day that we were in full on quarantine. And that was about 10 weeks ago. And it was a bit of an adjustment first few days.
yeah.
But after that, we were able to collaborate very easily, very seamlessly.
Mhm.
And I think this has really shown companies with that old mindset
Yeah.
of no working from home that you can still work from home.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what we're going to look like post pandemic or
Absolutely.
post quarantine, how organizations are going to adjust to their employees that want to continue working from home a little bit more.
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't have to be every day, but having that additional flexibility within organizations that were not already flexible is a really nice perk for their employees.
I
And
agree.
as you've mentioned, it does increase some people's productivity.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we've been so productive in these last couple months and gotten so much done. So I'm really proud of my team. So thinking about like just mental strength and, being vulnerable during these times, I've always wondered, and I wanted to get your take on this, like, how have we traditionally dealt with these kind of adversities? Um, is mental health something that we're allowed to even feel as a community? The African and Caribbean diaspora typically doesn't have these conversations ever. And when we do, it's from a place of, you know, you'll get through it, you'll be okay, you'll be fine.
I agree. I think as a community, culturally, showing weakness is not something that we have really been comfortable doing. I don't know if it's something that we've been allowed to do. And I would say traditionally, we deal with adversity the way we deal with everything else, with strength or with feigned strength.
Yeah,
You'll get through it, be strong,
yeah.
tough it out.
Mhm.
This isn't an African thing. We don't have mental health issues in Africa, or we don't have allergies in Africa,
That's a big one. Although we don't,
right?
but we won't talk about it.
I think as a community, we typically gloss over things.
Yeah,
Sometimes we deal with things through comedy, making fun of things.
yeah,
Even if it's a very serious matter, sometimes to make it lighter, we deal with comedy, with laughter. And I know from a personal experience coming from an African household that anytime that there is a challenge, you'll get through it. Be strong,
yeah,
tough it out
yeah.
were the words. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going was something that I heard often.
That's interesting.
Got me through some really tough times.
I bet.
So I think that traditionally we deal with adversity through strength, even if we have to fake it until we make it.
You know, I agree. I think that traditionally it's not been something that's looked upon as an actual issue. It's just very, let's roll over this. You're going to be fine. I
Ignore it.
ignored. Um, I think that the biggest issue I think we're facing is not listening. Is not listening to somebody who's actually crying out or speaking out and feeling like, okay, I can't handle this. I know it may seem small, but if you could just talk me through this, or if you could just be my support system, I think I might be okay. And I think that's something that we really need to tap into as a community and from a cultural standpoint as well. I know it's made a lot of us tough individuals because we've grown up in that uh, atmosphere, and I don't knock it because let me tell you, African parents are the only ones that have actually been preparing their children for greatness or even to just deal with what they are going to see outside because they give it to you raw, they give it to you uncut, and and what does the world do? The world also gives it to you raw and uncut. There's no filters. So you got to get out there and you hear things and it just bounces right off your back. You know why? Because your parents have already told you that this is what's going to happen. And sometimes you may come off as that cold individual or somebody who doesn't feel or somebody who's not empathetic or someone who's not emotional, but it's not from that place because all
Mm-mm.
of us are all of those things. It's just we come from a place of we've been told that this is what the world is like.
Well,
Are
it
you
be your
ready?
own parents
Yeah,
sometimes
your own
who will
parent.
keep it 100 with you.
100. So
Sometimes it's like, ouch, okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Like, all right, okay. I didn't know you needed to tell me that right now, but thank you for your input and that cup of tea, hot, steamy tea. So I think that's where we come from when we say, like, all of us are quite mentally strong, but we all have our breaking points. We all have our moments where, we need a helping hand and we need support. And so we have to really, look at ways as how we can help people help themselves through grabbing some of these resources.
Do you think that we have kind of just, to continue that conversation on how we've dealt with adversity, do you think that being vulnerable is something that we have been permitted to do? Do you think maybe we're moving towards that direction where we feel more comfortable being vulnerable?
I think we still have a long way to go, although the conversations have definitely started and sparked within the African and Caribbean communities. But in the past, traditionally, I don't think we've been allotted the vulnerability card. I think that we've been looked at as a race and as a people of strength. Our men are strong in physique, and our women are strong mentally. And that is just the two buckets that we've been given. And there's no room to be. A black woman is not looked at as somebody who could have a moment of weakness. She's looked at as strength. She's looked at somebody who's going to get through it, who's going to make it happen no matter the obstacles in her way, and vice versa for the men. The men are looked at from a very young age as physically strong, dominant. I think we need to get away from that. I think we need to move away from that. I think we need to evolve as a people and also start to share with other people what we're really thinking and what we're really feeling so that they can understand us a little bit better. I think that's where the disconnect is. Different communities have had the opportunity to create the narrative, and we need to take that back and take that into our own hands and show our vulnerable sides in order to be accepted into those groups of, I feel like I have a mental health issue. Can you help me? What can we do?
I agree completely with you.
Thank you.
I think we're moving in a direction where it's more acceptable in our new generations. Our parents and grandparents might still be in that point where it's not being vulnerable is not it's not a thing,
Yeah.
but
Not a
the younger
conversation starter for sure.
right, yeah. And the younger generations are moving towards a direction where it is okay. I think with the resurgence of dual person households, I think for a long time, many of our Black homes, especially in America, have been single person households.
Hmm.
But a movement that I'm seeing now is that resurgence of Black love,
Hmm.
Black family. We are comfortable to take that back.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we're moving in a direction where we can heal some of the effects of what the past has done to our families. So being able to share the load with somebody has become something that's easier. So if you're in a dual person home, you're not dealing with everything alone. You know,
Right.
hopefully you're in a relationship where you can say, I'm not okay today, or
Yeah.
I need to talk this out with you today,
Absolutely.
or how are we going to get through this together?
Together.
So it's really awesome to see that. And of course, you know, all love is great love, but we're really focused and excited to see that the
Resurgence.
healing coming in our communities because for a long time, for many people, Black women are and have been the last option as it relates to relationships, as it relates to marriage. We are excited to see that starting to come back as an option
Absolutely.
for our Black men and for our Black women. Because when the home is strong, the community is stronger.
When the home is strong, the children are strong and confident, and they go into the communities and they go into the world, and they take that confidence into the world with them and don't feel like somebody else can tell you who you are. So that's
Exactly.
very important. And of course, as those things continue to develop, that creates a strong community, right?
Yeah. No,
I love that.
absolutely.
I love that.
Now, not everybody has a partner,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
And
And this
the death,
and just jumping in, it might be by choice. A partner is not it
not the be all and end all.
exactly. A partner is not the be all end all. If you are single by choice, of course, we want to talk to you too. We want to reach out to you too. And it's important to also nurture the relationships, whether it be friends, colleagues, just as much as those in a traditional two-parent home or two-person home.
So I can't imagine having to be isolated or quarantined for an extended period of time without any type of contact. Obviously, we're not talking about in person contact, but there are lots of really great virtual ways to stay connected. Everybody, stay quarantined. We are not pulling up to anybody's house,
Nope.
but there are some really great ways that you can stay connected to the people in your life. What do you suggest?
Hmm. I mean, I think the biggest thing would be just figuring out how to stay connected. So your Zoom calls, your FaceTimes, your WebExes, all of those wonderful things that still allow you to keep a safe distance, but also talk to your key folks and your key friends. And that is a really big, especially when you're quarantining solo or by yourself and you're not able to really see too many people. And you have to find ways to keep your mind fit. That's a big one. Keep your mind fit. If you are working, that's great. Try to, have a departmental get together with your colleagues. That's another way to kind of still stay connected without having to go anywhere. Get out for walks, get out for bike rides. Still see people, but just, of course, number one, keep your distance. I think as when you're solo quarantining, it's a different mindset that you have to be in. Of course, you're obviously used to being home on your own and kind of doing your own thing, but it's very different when you can't go outside or when it's not in your best interest to be outside unless it's for essential services.
Your point on keeping mentally strong is so key. And using this time to continue to develop, read books, journal, blog, drink more water, exercise, eat the right food or
Yes.
wine,
Or wine.
whatever your beverage of choice is.
Yep.
This is a really great time to work on the mental strength.
Yeah.
And some of these activities, like reading, are a great way to turn it into a group activity. Start a virtual book club.
That's a great idea.
Talk about what you're reading.
Yeah.
Take this time to heal yourself, mind, body, and soul.
Hmm.
Because we are in a certainly unusual time. It's not often in life that we've had the opportunity to sit, rest, and reflect.
So, as always, we like to make some resources available to our listeners because we think it's very important to connect our topics and conversations to resources. So, we found some great resources that you guys should definitely tap into if you're feeling like you need some support, someone to talk to, or someone to just listen to you guys talk. So, first one was the Black Mental Health Day.ca. They've got some great stuff on their website. Go out and check them out. The next one that we thought of that might be really good for you all is pathways2care.ca. Another great resource, and we hope that you guys get some good information from both of these websites.
We are apart, but we're in this together. So let's remember when we can to either get real with the people in our lives or check in on the people in our lives as well. As always, thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to share this time with us. Leave us a great review. Share this podcast.
Yes, share.
And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Hustle and Air. Our podcast is currently available on Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud.
We'd love to hear from you. Comment below, drop a crown, share your experience, and remember, stay home and stay safe. Great job today. I think this is a
Yes,
great episode.
it was. More people should feel more comfortable talking things out.
I hope people reach out and talk to each other, and together we'll help each other get through this quarantine. Okay, girl, how's quarantine really going for you?
Listen,
Come on. I could use some sun. I could use some sand.
sangria on a patio.
I can't wait for the weather to get a little better. Like this is
Me,
happening right
me,
now.
me too. I really, for my own mental health, just need to be set free. I need freedom.
Freedom, freedom. You gotta give 'em what you say.